After returning from a week-long international trip, I was caught off guard when my mother-in-law Karen called me, her voice unusually excited. She started talking about a $100,000 windfall money we had supposedly saved. Confused, I tried to recall any instance where we had set aside such a sum. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have an emergency savings account, but I don't keep large amounts of cash on hand. Plus, my bank card had been with me the entire trip, and no one else should have been able to withdraw that much money then. Karen said something that left me stunned. He gave it to me, so I took it from the sideboard drawer. You guys are doing well, so it's fine, her words made my mind race before I could question her further. She quickly thanked me and casually hinted that she'd be relying on me for future financial help. Then hung up, I stood there still piecing together what had just happened. Where did that $100,000 go? When my husband Michel came home, he finally explained the misunderstanding. A month later, Karen's calls flooded my phone. At first, I ignored them, assuming they weren't urgent, but when I checked my phone and saw over 50 missed calls, unease settled. In the moment I picked up, her sharp voice filled the room. Why have you been ignoring me? Her accusatory tone made it clear she felt wronged, but from my perspective, she was the one making assumptions. My name is Ashley, a 37-year-old freelance jewelry designer navigating the delicate balance between work and personal life. I've always wanted children, but my workload is overwhelming. Michael, my husband, used to work in corporate management, but as my business grew, he made a bold decision. He left his job to help me manage my brand. Early in our marriage, my jewelry work was unpredictable, and we relied on Michael's stable income. Now that my business has flourished, our financial roles have shifted. With success came new challenges, especially dealing with family misunderstandings about money. As I turned 34, my career took off. Big international brands started recognizing my designs, and my schedule became chaotic. Seeing the business expand, Michael, who was on the verge of a promotion, chose to quit his job and focus entirely on our company. Together, we landed major contracts, elevating both our professional and personal lives. But one thing remained constant: Karen's view of our success. She lived alone and saw our lifestyle as lavish. You two are always dressed up, eating at fancy places. I'm so jealous. In reality, my work required me to attend high-profile events, network at executive dinners, and maintain a polished image. To Karen, these seemed like extravagant outings. Her requests for money became more frequent. I'm throwing a party for my friend. Can you help me out? From the outside, we might have seemed wealthy, but in truth, maintaining a professional image was expensive. These weren't luxuries, they were obligations. But Karen never understood. You always look so elegant, eating in high-end places. I wish I had your life. Even though I repeatedly refused her requests, Michael, being her son, sometimes gave in. If giving her a little money keeps the peace, it's worth it, but giving in only encouraged her. More recently, Karen wanted a new dress for an upcoming event. She came over insisting Michael buy it for her. Wouldn't a three-piece suit work? You've bought clothes for people before, I suggested, looking for something more affordable, but Karen had her mind set on something expensive. It's a fancy party. I can't be the only one wearing old clothes, and of course matching bag was a must. At that point, I had to wonder where would this end. To make things easier, Michael had set up a credit card in Karen's name for her everyday expenses. But things quickly spiraled out of control. At first, she spent recklessly, forcing Michael to step in and warn her. Please let us know before making any big purchases, he told her. Karen nodded in agreement, but her actions said otherwise. I found an exquisite ring and just couldn't resist buying it, she admitted. One day, I regret not telling you first, but it was too beautiful to pass up. Michael checked the bill. Karen, this is outrageous. The amount was staggering. If this keeps up, we'll have no choice but to take the card back. We just can't keep covering these costs. The credit card was in Karen's name, but Michael was the one managing and paying the bills. To her, it was like free money. She never thought about how it was being repaid. So, since the money wasn't directly coming from her pocket, she spent freely, ignoring the consequences to control her spending. Michael set a strict limit on her card. Karen stormed into our home one afternoon, furious. What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day. Why? Michael barely glanced up from his work. Karen, we had to lower your limit. Your spending was getting out of hand. Karen crossed her arms, her face red with frustration. But you two still dress up and go to fancy places. Why is what I'm doing any different? Michael sighed. Karen, that's part of our job. Her eyes narrowed. If that's work, then what I'm doing isn't any different. It's unfair that only you two get to have all the fun. She truly believed our professional commitments, networking events, business meetings at upscale venues were just for pleasure. Although setting a limit on her credit card didn't make her happy, it at least kept things under control. Occasionally she would drop by to complain, but overall life continued without major disruptions. As the year ended, something huge happened. A foreign brand manufacturer approached me with a proposal to expand our business overseas. This was the breakthrough I had been working toward for years, a chance to join the ranks of top-tier designers. Michael, ever my biggest supporter, didn't hesitate. It's a chance we have to take, he said firmly. The idea of moving abroad thrilled me, but there was one major concern. Karen, given her history of financial dependence, it was only a matter of time before she insisted on coming with us. The thought of managing her demands in a foreign country was overwhelming. That weekend, we finally told Karen about our move. Her reaction was exactly as we expected. I want to come too, she declared, assuming this was just a luxurious getaway. Michael rubbed his temples. Already exhausted. Karen, we're going for work. It won't be as fun as you think. But she wasn't buying it. You're trying to trick me. You're planning to live even more lavishly over there without me watching. I tried to calm her down. It's not permanent. Karen, will come back once our work is done, she scoffed. That's what you say now, but you're just looking for a way to leave me behind. Her resentment was clear, and this conversation was only the beginning of an even bigger storm. Michael and I were both drained from the same exhausting argument, repeating itself like a broken record in an attempt to find a middle ground. Michael offered a solution. Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we cover a week-long trip for you instead? Karen's eyes lit up. Really, are you sure? Michael nodded. We'll pay for your flight and hotel, but you'll have to handle the rest. For a brief moment, it seemed like peace had finally settled, but it didn't last. Just a few days later, while Michael was preoccupied with moving arrangements, Karen showed up unannounced. Hey, Ashley, she greeted, before quickly getting to the point. I want to do some shopping over there too. Can you give me some money? I raised an eyebrow. What about the card Michael gave you? I asked, knowing she had a designated credit card for expenses like this. Her expression darkened. That's the thing. Michael took it away from me the other day. Turns out she had been overspending and anticipating the difficulties of handling a different currency overseas. Michael had confiscated her card. I don't have that kind of money on hand either, I told her firmly. I can't give you money without Michael's approval. Why don't you ask him? Her tone sharpened. There's no point asking him. That's why I'm asking you. I sighed, already knowing how this would go. Still, Karen managed to take a 15-day trip abroad, which I assumed Michael ended up funding somehow. When Karen returned, her voice practically buzzed with excitement over the phone. I'm back. And it was amazing, she gushed, launching into a long monologue about her sightseeing adventures and the lavish Meals she had enjoyed despite me never asking, then, as if it were a casual afterthought, she added, I bought way too many souvenirs, so I had them shipped home. I can't wait for them to arrive. I forced a neutral tone. That's nice, but then she said something that made my stomach drop. Thanks to the money you saved up. I had a blast. My brows furrowed. Saved up money? What are you talking about? Her response sent a shock wave through me. Oh, I found it in the sideboard drawer at your house. Took $100,000 from there. For a moment my mind went blank. $100,000? Why on earth would such a huge amount of cash be stashed away in a drawer? And more importantly, why did she think it was okay to take it? I took a deep breath, trying to process what I just heard. I have no idea what money you're talking about, but taking it without permission is theft, family or not. Do you understand that? Karen remained unfazed. That's why I'm telling you now. I already spent it, so consider this a post factum report, she said casually, as if it were no big deal. I stared in disbelief. Karen, if you took that money and used it without telling anyone, that's a crime. And if Michael had said it aside for something important, it's even worse. Oddly enough, despite the amount she claimed to have taken, our business finances hadn't suffered any disruptions. So where did that money actually come from? But before I could press the issue further, Karen shrugged off my concerns. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right? I felt a wave of frustration rise in my chest. Asking your son and his wife for help is one thing, Karen, but this taking from someone else's home without permission, I said, my voice cold with disbelief. But Karen didn't waver. Well, I had fun, so that's all that matters. And then she added something that made my blood run cold. Michael will understand. After all, I'm his only mother, and $100,000 isn't much to him. All right, I'll pass the message along, I said, still stunned by Karen's complete lack of awareness. She had just admitted to taking $100,000 from our home without permission, and yet she acted as if it were no big deal. That night when Michael came home, his face was tense, his expression shadowed with worry. Ashley, do you know about the money I left in the drawer? He asked, his voice urgent. I immediately felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. 20 days ago, I withdrew it from my bank account, and now it's gone. His brows furrowed. Keeping that much cash at home was already risky. Didn't you think it was careless? I blinked, startled by his sudden accusation. I needed that cash immediately for an urgent payment. Do you know anything about it? And just like that, everything clicked into place. Karen's mysterious phone call, her enthusiastic gratitude, and the mention of the $100,000, it all finally made sense. She had stolen Michael's money, the money he had set aside for something critical. Michael, Karen called earlier today thanking us for the $100,000 and saying she had a blast with it. I admitted, my voice carefully controlled. His eyes darkened. What I exhaled slowly. I didn't understand what she meant at first, but now I do. A heavy silence settled between us as Michael processed what I had just said. I looked at him, confused and concerned. But Michael, if this wasn't for a business payment, why cash? We've been handling payments through bank transfers for years. Why did you need that much cash all of a sudden? I needed to understand the full picture. Karen had stolen the money, that much was clear, but why had Michael withdrawn it in the first place? Karen took it without telling us, I said, my voice tightening with frustration. But what was the money for? And what happens now? Michael remained silent for a moment, his jaw tightening. The consequences of Karen's actions were only beginning to unfold, and I had the feeling this was just the start. Michael finally began to explain everything. After he lowered the credit limit on Karen's card, she started secretly borrowing from multiple sources consumer finance, loans, hidden credit, cards, and even personal loans she had taken without our knowledge. When Michael discovered the growing mountain of debt, he made a drastic decision. He took away all her cards and withdrew cash to settle her debts directly. His reasoning: I wanted to keep our business accounts clean. If banks or lenders started questioning transactions, it could damage our reputation with our partners. It was also meant as a farewell gesture. We're moving abroad soon. We won't be here to handle her financial mess anymore. Michael had intended to quietly fix everything, ensuring her debts were settled before we left, but instead of paying off what she owed, Karen blew the entire amount on a luxurious vacation. Now, the debts still existed and Karen was drowning in them. A month passed, and as I packed for a move, Karen's endless calls became impossible to ignore. When I finally answered, her voice was shaky and desperate. Why aren't you answering my calls? I've been calling so many times. I sighed, already anticipating trouble. I'm sorry, Karen, I've been busy with the move. What's going on? Her voice cracked under the pressure. It's not just one thing, it's everything. The lenders are demanding payments almost every day. I can't keep up anymore. I closed my eyes, frustration creeping in. Have you tried contacting Michael about this? He won't answer. HEK blocking my calls. I can't reach him at all, she pleaded. Then came the words I had been expecting. Ashley, you're my only hope now. Please help me. I finally grasped the full extent of the mess. Karen had fallen so deeply into financial recklessness that now, cut off from Michael, she had turned to me as her last resort. I'll talk to Michael, but I can't guarantee what he'll do, I said carefully. Karen's voice turned desperate. A son should help his mother in trouble, right? Please just ask him. But the truth was, we couldn't afford to help her anymore. The money that had been meant to fix this mess was gone, wasted on her selfish indulgence. When I told Michael about the call, his reaction was cold, laced with exhaustion. I gave her a chance to fix things before we left. She squandered it. His tone held no sympathy, no regret, just resignation. That money was supposed to clear her debts, but she spent it on herself. She has no excuse with that. Michael blocked her number. Part of me still wanted to help, but at this point, there was nothing I could do. As our move overseas approached, another bombshell dropped. Karen had decided to sell her house, but it wasn't by choice. It turned out she had hidden even more debts than we realized. Even after selling the home, it still wasn't enough to cover what she owed for Michael. This was more than just losing a house, it was losing his childhood home, the place where his earliest memories were made. The family home is gone. Are you okay with that? I asked, sensing his sorrow. His reply was quiet, heavy with emotion. How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do. I understood his pain all too well. I had lost my parents' house when I was younger, and I knew the unique grief that came with it. It wasn't just about losing a building, it was about losing a part of your history, the comfort of knowing there was always a place to return to. Karen now lived in a modest apartment, trying to survive on part-time work, but jobs for older workers were scarce, physically demanding, and poorly paid. Her reckless spending had turned into a daily struggle for survival. Did I feel sorry for her? A little, but at the same time I knew this was the consequence of her own choices. Life teaches us lessons the hard way, and financial responsibility is crucial at any age. Our new life overseas was nothing short of a whirlwind. Our brand had exploded into the international market, and with it came a flood of opportunities. Every new email, every new call was a potential deal, a new collaboration, a chance to grow even further. But success came with a price. Days blurred into nights, time zones and cultural differences stretched us thin. Our work consumed everything. We barely had time to breathe, let alone think about starting a family, something we had always wanted, but now seemed like a distant Dream Michael handling everything from logistics to client management felt the pressure just as much as I did. We often found ourselves wondering, was this the right path? How do we balance success and personal life without losing ourselves? In the process, I stood by the apartment window, looking out at the cityscape. The neon lights blurred into the night, a reflection of our relentless, fast-paced lives. The city was vibrant, full of opportunity, but it was also relentless. This is our home now. It was nothing like the quiet, steady life we had left behind. As we built this new phase of our lives, one thing became clear: our choices shape everything. Each decision, each sacrifice, each success. It wasn't just about money or career, it was about the legacy we were leaving behind. Karen had made her choices, and now she was facing the consequences. We had made ours, and we were still learning how to navigate the cost of success. The past is behind us, the future is ours to build. And as I stood there, looking at the bright, endless city, I knew one thing for sure: we were just getting started. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this article. Remember to like and subscribe for more.